Now, how many of you have a backup device? Now, how many of you have more than one backup device? Do you have a backup device backing up your backing up device? Before you go out and buy an expensive NAS, if you have an old Mac, a Mac Mini, a MacBook Pro, you can set that up very, very cheaply and use that as a NAS. And this is my Drobo 5D, a perfectly working direct attached storage to my Mac Pro 2019. Working perfectly well. Doesn't seem like it's going to fail anytime soon, but it's still a risk. It is still a single point of failure. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can reduce that risk. I'm going to turn this into a secondary storage device to back up my Drobo. I'm going to show you how to do it. And on top of that, I'm also going to show you a very useful terminal command called Rsync, which can do managed copies across the network to other drives. Easily stuffable. The same mount you get in the box. So given the title of this video, you may be asking, why do I need to back up a perfectly good backup system? So a little bit more explanation. This is a Drobo, as I've already mentioned. Had it for 4 years, working perfectly fine. I really do like Drobo devices, and I was looking for a new one. In that search, I found these drives are very hard to get hold of, if not at all. And so I began to realize I have all my eggs in one basket, or all my data in one drive. And really, I was on borrowed time. While Drobo Inc. seems to still be alive, I cannot buy any replacements. I could go on eBay and buy a second-hand one, but the issue still remains. Drobo Inc. themselves don't seem to be doing very well. While they're bringing updates to new Mac OSs, I don't know how long that will continue. And so, to me, I seem to be on a downward slope to a redundant backup device that, while working at this moment in time, may fail tomorrow. The other problem is, beyond RAID, which is Drobo's proprietary file system, which does have some excellent features, and this is one of the reasons I use Drobo, because it's so expandable over a period of time. You don't have to start with a set size. You could start off tomorrow with just two 1 terabyte drives, and then put a 4 terabyte drive in there, and then add an 8, and continue up to this particular drive, which is 70 terabytes. At the moment, I have 32, but the options are there to continually expanding it if and when budgets or needs allow. But this beyond RAID technology is proprietary to Drobo. That means that while the drives themselves are backed up, should the device itself fail, I have a hardware failure, I cannot take the drives out of here and put it in any other system but another Drobo, which means single point of failure, total disaster, lose all data. So what are we going to do about it? Now, the other part of this video, besides being a bit paranoid about my Drobo failing, there's been a long-standing rule which holds very true. That rule says you should have 3 copies of your data, 1 working, 2 copies, and I have that. I have a working copy on my Mac Pro 2009. I have copies of that working data on the Drobo and on the Mac Pro NAS. So I satisfied that first bit. The second part of the rule says you should store your important data files on 2 different file systems. I do this because Drobo, while it's a proprietary file system, does have a different file system and macOS file system. So 2 different systems. If for whatever reason one of them spanners, the other one's there available. Though I think that's unlikely to happen, but that's the reason that exists. And the third part of that rule is you should take your important data and take a copy of it and put it off-site, put it somewhere else, give it to someone else. Well, I don't do that. What I do instead is probably maybe the next best thing. We have a firebox in the house and we keep all our important documents inside that. Any really, really important data that I want to keep, I take a copy, put it on a hard drive or a flash stick and put that in a firebox. And that firebox sits somewhere safe but easily accessible somewhere in the house. So in the event of a fire or a theft, should be still hopefully be able to retrieve that firebox and get back that important information. So this in our case is our firebox, and inside of here we have birth certificates and everything else and other important information, and also have hard drives. I do recommend a firebox if you haven't got one already. and store that away in a safe place. Now you may be asking, what do I use my Drobo for? Well, its primary purpose is to store Final Cut Pro projects and the resultant films. They are very large files, in orders of tens of gigabytes. Down here is my MacPro 2009. Had this since new, absolute beast, has been expanded up to the hilt. Anything that I've done to make it go at its full potential today, I have done it. It was my main workhorse before I got my MacPro 2019. Another reason not to get rid of this one, because it's still quite a potent machine. And what people are doing with their MacPro 2009 today is quite amazing. But to set up a NAS, you don't need necessarily a potent Mac. Even a Mac from 5-6 years back, an old Mac Mini, go on eBay, you can find these from £300. So you don't need a potent Mac. You just need the ability to hang hard drives off the back to create that storage device. So if you have a MacBook, you can still do the same thing. All you need is some kind of hub, plug that into one of the USB ports. They're quite fast enough. And from that, you can hang a job 4-disk array or something like that. You can even access them individually or mirror them up using macOS's built-in utility, disk utility. Now, disk utility is pretty awesome. That comes with macOS. You would normally use that to format drives. But if you go into the advanced section, there you can group drives together and put them either into a RAID 0 configuration, which means they're striped super fast but loss of data, or RAID 1 configuration where if you have 2 drives, they would mirror each other. So I keep this around, wouldn't ever think of getting rid of it. I have Mojave on it, 32-bit OS to keep the old apps running. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this into a secondary storage device to back up my Drobo. So I can get this Mac Pro on the run of a command to go across to the Drobo, grab all the files in a folder. It can spot all the differences and then only copy the files that have ever changed. A brilliant way to manage your backup of your backups. Okay, on the other side of my desk to my Mac Pro 2009, connected to this one via a network hub, which is up there. My mini network, 8 ports. This is now my workhorse. I build all my projects on this, but it does not have any storage in it apart from scratch disks, which are there just for to facilitate the building of a project and post-edit work. My Drobo up there is the one that stores all my film projects after I've finished with them. Bring across all the raw files, having copied them on 2 other devices. I create the projects on here, do the work, build the project, produce the film, copy the resultant project to the Drobo, and delete everything off of here. But I still only have one backup system, the Drobo, the single point of failure. Now, one of the reasons I like my Mac Pro 2009, apart from the fact that I've already owned it for 10 years, so you could say I'm biased, is the fact that it has so many expansion possibilities. One of the reasons this thing acts so well as a storage device is I have these 4 drive bays here. One of them is populated already with the boot drive, and up here we have the optical drive bays. If the optical drive is removed, I can hold a further 2 hard drives. That means in total I could have 6 spinning rust disks up to 96 terabytes. That's pretty awesome. And here I have a 16 terabyte drive, and I have one 4 terabyte drive here. That 4 terabyte backs up the Drobo on the top here, and the 16 terabyte in here backs up the Drobo. And if that wasn't enough, I can open this up and slip in a PCIe 3.0 Gen 2 card with 4 ports and hang a whole load more drives off the back to expand it even further, as well as a working Mojave 32-bit machine, which I use for old applications and converting old video formats. Now, my Drobo is capable of going up to 70 terabytes, and at the moment I have 32 terabytes installed in it. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, you've only got a 16 terabyte drive in here. Well, at this moment in time, I'm only using 24% of that 32 terabyte, which is perfectly adequate for this one 16 terabyte drive to store as a secondary device. What's brilliant about this, should I need extra hard drives as that Drobo expands, I can slot in another hard drive in here to complement the space needed up there, and so I can duplicate the system. This still operates FireWire 800, so I still have an old Drobo Gen 2 here still operational from 2009. Again, I'm not throwing it away, it's still used. It may be slow, so I just keep small files on it, but it's a perfectly working backup system, and this Mac Pro backs that Drobo up too. Okay, so the very easy part now is to take your Mac, in my case my Mac Pro 2009, and make the drives available to other computers, and this is in effect turning it into a NAS. So let's do that first. Is go to your computer's preferences. In this case, this is my Mac Pro 2019. I'm going to do the same with the Mac Pro 2009, but I just wanted to show you the Mac Pro 2019. This is the default settings. So we go open preferences, go to sharing, open the sharing pane, and there you will see a service file sharing. In my case, I have it switched on, and here we have Ilia public folder. Now that is the default you would get on any Mac, and over here on the right you will see who has access to that folder, and again these are the defaults when the Mac is set up. So we have here myself, I'm the administrator, I have read-write permissions on this drive from anywhere else on the network from another computer. Anybody else has a read-only. What I'm going to do now is go to the Mac Pro 2009 and show you the same thing. So if I go to my Mac 2009, this Mac Pro 2 as it's called, go to screen sharing, and I will just log into it. So this is the screen of my Mac Pro 2009. You see here two terminal windows. We'll go on to those in a moment. First, let me show you the Finder window. These windows I normally have open all the time. And here you will see the drives that are available on this particular Mac. And here we have the 16 terabyte drive. It's called Drobo 5D Backup. This will back up the Drobo connected to the Mac Pro 2019. And this other Drobo backup backs up the Drobo that's sitting on top of it, which you saw earlier. This is a 4 terabyte drive. So these are the drives local to the Mac Pro 2019. To make these available to other computers, simply go to System Preferences, like we did previously. Go to Sharing, go to the File Sharing Service, tick that on, and here we have, besides the public folder, the additional Drobo 5D backup and a work drive. If you want to add more drives, you click the plus button, you then add a drive, and it will be appended to this list. On each of these drives that you select, you then have the read-write permissions for that drive. In this particular case, I have System Administrator, and administrators have full read-write access to the Drobo 5D backup. So if I wanted to go from my Mac Pro 2019 and access the drives on the Mac Pro 2009, as I've made these available, if I go back to the Mac Pro 2019 by bringing this Finder window forward, these are the drives that I can see from my Mac Pro 2019 on the Mac Pro 2009. And generally, in my case, I just make all my drives available. Enabling the drives you want to share amongst other Macs and other users of those Macs, effectively you create your NAS. And that's all you have to do. And if you didn't know already, how I can get to see my Mac Pro 2009 on my Mac Pro 2019, here in the Preferences pane for the 2009, you'll see just above File Sharing, Screen Sharing. And here I've enabled my Mac Pro 2009 to have it screen shared with other Macs on the network. And as a user, I just log in as I would. And this is what I find really, really useful. You just need one screen and you can have loads of Macs and just access them individually. Your mouse and keyboard all works fine. Now we'll go to the terminal windows and I will show you the Rsync command, the icing on the cake for all this NAS setup. So I normally have two terminals open. This lower one is the one I run the Rsync command with its various options, sets off the operations that go across the network and grab folders, interrogate them, look at the differences and bring back any differences and mirror them on any secondary drives that I put onto the Mac Pro 2009. And here, the beauty of a terminal window, if you keep it open, even if you power down your Mac and bring it back again, it will remember all the commands that you have previously entered. In my case, I've got the Rsync command here with its various options. We'll go through those in a moment. Now, that's the easy way out, and that's all I have to do. I just scroll up, hit that command, run it whenever I want to do a secondary backup from my Drobo. If at any time my Mac or that terminal loses those commands, what I've done is simply taken that command, pasted it into a text file, and if I need to recover that command so I don't have to work out those options again or those file paths again, I just copy it from the text file and paste it back into the terminal window, and you're off again. So we have a look here at the rsync command. We have the options, AV, delete, and delete after. If you want to find out more information on this type of command, Mac provides that for you. So if you go into the terminal window and type man for manual and type rsync for the command, hit return, it will be shown all the options and descriptions for those options in the terminal, along with a few examples. So an excellent resource should you need it. I will put in the description below a couple more links to other people's blogs on how they use their rsync command, because it is a very, very powerful command. And what I'm showing you here is the simplest you can do. There's a lot more things you can do. You can set it up to be scheduled to say run twice a day using cron. You can use the SSH key so you don't have to log in. As you'll see, I will be logging in from my MacPro 2009 into my MacPro 2019 in order to allow that rsync command to run. But if you want to automate it even further, there's lots of instructions out there to help you do this. Manual there for options. For my case, my favorite ones here, and I use them 99% of the time, is AV. A means archive, and that does most of the heavy work for you. And the V here is verbosity. I like seeing it progress. The source is the remote drive, and the destination is the secondary drive on the MacPro 2009. The next command option here is delete, and that will delete any files local to the 2009 should they be deleted on any other drives you're grabbing from, in my case the Drobo. And then delete after if there are files on the Drobo and they don't exist on the 2009. Rsync will then delete those files on the source. Next option here after delete after, that's the source, and then we have the destination folder for local secondary drive on the MacPro 2009. A little bit more info on the source. Because I am logging in to another computer, I have here the username, and that's my username, and we have here @ and the name of my MacPro 2009. Now where you find this name, simply go up to the computer you're grabbing the files from in the preferences pane, and you will see up there the name of the computer, and this is the name for the MacPro 2009. And similarly, if I looked in the same preferences pane on the 2019, I will see its name. So you grab that name, put it as part of the parameter for the source, with the username, which is my name, followed by the destination, which is the secondary drive, the 16 terabyte drive on this MacPro 2009. Once you've got those set up, hit the return key. It will now say log in to the MacPro 2019. So I'm going to type that in and it will go off. Now, the first time you run this command, if you have a lot of data, gigabytes of data, it will take a very, very long time, because literally it's going to interrogate 100% of it and copy 100% of it from the source to the destination. Any subsequent runs of the rsync command will only look at the differences, and this is where the speed ups really occur. So if you've only got 1 or 2 changes, it will look across all that data, spot the differences, whether they've been deleted or additions, and mirror them on the secondary drive. And that happens all automatically. Now, I haven't set it up here, but one of the options is if you have the option like I have here, delete after, you can ask Rsync to store in a separate folder any deleted files. That way you can check what it's deleting and make sure you don't lose anything, which is a really good option to have. So as you can see here, it's finding the differences and telling me the files it's going to be copying. And for my own reference, sometimes I just have the activity monitor open to see if what's happening on the network. And you can see here we're reading from the Drobo 87 megabytes of data a second. So we know the Rsync is pulling data from the Drobo and putting it on the 16 terabyte drive on the MacPro 2009. So we'll let that run a bit and I'll speed this up, and then we see what the end results are. So there you see it's finished. It's taken the differences, the additional files, in my case this project in fact, and it's pulled it from the Drobo and stuck it in the 2009, and it says here it did a 34.3 speed up. That, to me, is nothing more than an indication of just how little or how many files it pulled from somewhere else. Because if that's 1, then that's 100%, and then reports any additional information along the way. So just to repeat, I have a terminal window, just have the command option in there. I can scroll up, I can rerun that command, it'll go off, type in the password, and this time it will be even faster because it won't spot any differences at all. There will be a little bit of traffic on the network, just to show it is active, but it's not going to be pulling any data across in this case. And there you go, it's done already, and it's found no differences. And we got an absolutely massive speed up. Using verbosity mode, I didn't see any files show up, so I know it didn't copy anything across. So that's it for this video. I hope you really found that useful. I do recommend that you use your old Macs instead of buying a NAS and set them up as NASs. You know, I'm biased to a MacPro 2009. I do think they're very, very viable machines to set up as a NAS. They're pretty cheap out there. As I said before, you don't need a powerful Mac to do this. If you have any suggestions, comments and questions on how you do secondary backups, how you use the Rsync command, please let me know down in the comments below. It is quite a sophisticated command and you can do a hell of a lot with it, and I'll be happy to see what other people do. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this and support this channel, please do hit that subscription button. Keep safe, keep well, and I'll see you guys next time.